He's the recognisable bearded face we all know from his mowing empire and the many other businesses that bear his name. But there's a lot more to Jim Penman than just lawns.
The 73-year-old is pretty cranky about government red tape. He reckons he's close to curing mental illness, and he's stubborn about his succession plans. Although, as Matt the butler discovered, Jim still knows his way around a mower.
He's the mowing magnate who's built a billion-dollar business empire from the grass up.
Cut around the edge first, straight lines, pick up every speck of grass and cut the edges very, very clean and perfect. Got to be totally immaculate.
50 years ago, Jim Penman was mowing lawns for $5 a pop to support himself through university.
Well, I had to pay the rent, didn't I? Honestly, there wasn't very much to it. I was deeply in debt. I was newly married. My wife wasn't working because she was a student, so really, it's the only thing I knew how to do. It wasn't really much of a decision. It was just, you know, do this or you don't eat.
Now, he's Australia's biggest franchisor.
If you could go back and speak to 18-year-old Jim, what would you say to him?
There's a lot more money in gardening than you could possibly imagine. I had no idea that I could ever make a living out of actually pushing a lawnmower around. And I do think that's something that people don't recognise. There's this obsession with tertiary education, which I think if you're going to be a doctor or something, it's probably not a bad idea. But if you're not academic, I tell you what, there's so much opportunity in business, and particularly in the trades.
He would know. From humble beginnings as the bearded gardener, Jim's group has grown to more than 50 divisions.
Any more in the works currently?
We're looking at Jim's towing is one. Jim's epoxy floors, we're hoping to do that one. We're trying to get Jim's personal training going.
He has a whopping 5,500 franchisees across Australia, New Zealand, the UK and Canada. But not all of the spin-offs have been a hit.
We've probably succeeded more than we've failed, but there's a lot of failures. We tried, actually, one of the ones that was really embarrassing was Jim's Beauty. We got a lot of publicity about that. In the end, we couldn't find customers. That was one of the very few cases where it was franchisees we couldn't find customers.
Something else that made a splash, his controversial take on Victoria's COVID lockdowns. He thinks Australia needs a Trump-style Doge to cut down on government bureaucracy.
I find it so frustrating at every level. I see the problems with excessive government regulation and control. If you look at the median house price in Texas, where you don't have a lot of regulations, so like Houston, the average house price in Australian terms is about $500,000 a year. That's about half what we're paying in Melbourne and Sydney. So by government regulations, we are doubling the cost of housing. And the actual cost to individuals is horrifying. That people cannot afford. Young people cannot afford to buy a house. They cannot afford to rent. There's people dying homeless in the streets because of the housing crisis. This is government regulations. This is the iron hand of government saying we're going to bring 500,000 new people into this country every year, and we're going to use the iron hand of government to actually forbid anybody making enough houses to house them. What could possibly go wrong? It's an appalling problem. We waste hundreds of billions of dollars a year paying government bureaucrats to do nothing but impoverish us. And it makes me furious. The government says, I want to buy popularity, so let's tax people more, borrow more money, and subsidise heating bills. Well, I tell you what, we could do 20 times more for people's welfare if we simply took the iron hand of government, took off useless regulations.
The 73-year-old says he never set out to make big money. When his PhD thesis was rejected in 1982, he threw himself into Jim's mowing full throttle, in the hope one day he'd be able to fund research to prove the naysayers wrong.
When I get up in the morning, I have a purpose in life. And my purpose is to do with my research, but it's also to do with my franchisee welfare.
Each year, he funnels millions of dollars into the field of epigenetics, exploring how our environment can influence gene activity and its effect on human behaviour.
So now what we've been doing is looking at the effects of mild food restriction, particularly on rats, trying to understand what changes it causes to their body. And it does interesting things. It makes them much better parents. They're more hard-working in rat terms, which is more exploratory. And what we're doing is trying to reproduce that. And we think we can produce treatments that will be enormously helpful, particularly for instances like depression, like drug addiction, like alcohol dependence, those kinds of issues. We think we can help a lot.
And speaking of genetics, Jim's entrepreneurial streak runs in the family. His 23-year-old daughter Sylvia has followed in his footsteps. She's the driving force behind Jim's removals.
Having two parents in business since before I can even remember, it was always business, but just what kind of business? Removals is an industry where you have to trust the people that you're moving with, and who would you trust more? Who could you trust more than literally the biggest service brand in Australia? It's satisfying work. It's an industry where I think people, there's a lot of cowboys around. So a lot of customers that, came to us, I found that they were really disappointed with their previous experiences. Just in moving. So I kind of saw a gap in the market.
Sylvia's mother and I got a bet as to how many trucks they're going to have by Christmas. They just got their second one. I reckon they're going to have 4 by Christmas. Ray reckons 3, so we've got a bet.
He's always got high expectations, like he always does that, He's always putting his expectations super high, and then, I don't think he thinks we can reach it, but it's like if you,
I
shoot
do
for the
think
moon.
so.
A strategy that seems to have served him well.
I often say what matters in business is what you think about in the shower. If you're thinking about your business all the time and saying, how can I improve, you'll tend to do well. If you're just doing it because you want to make money so you can do things that are more important, you're not likely to do as well.
Isn't that what you're doing with research, though? I'm just kidding. He's giving me the look.
But while he may have a whip-smart successor in waiting, the man with the mower isn't ready to hand over the reins of his empire just yet.
On my retirement, I've got the ceremony planned. It'll be in a church, and I'll be the guest of honour, and I'll be in a box.
That's pretty funny. I never heard you say it like that before.
And my life expectancy based on Google, because I have extremely good health and everything else, is probably I'll live to my early mid-90s, about another 20 years. So I wouldn't hold your breath waiting for me to retire.
No one is. No one is.
No, unimaginable.
Good on him.
Back behind the mower. I'm not sure about Jim's beauty salon.
Jim's personal training, be up your alley.
Towing, maybe.